All right, everybody's coming in. Welcome, welcome. Happy New Year. We are grateful that you are here. You are joining the mentor team of the Transformative Reading Teacher Group. And I see you're popping into the participant box where we see you coming in. We're so grateful you're here. We're so grateful you're here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We're going to give it a second to make sure everybody's in. All right. So today, this is the first ever day for the Transformative Reading Teacher Group. This is a day that kind of is a spinoff of something that we did at the Big Sky Literacy Summit, right? Three of us stood on stage. This year, Teresa will be on stage to welcome the Big Sky Literacy Summit at Transformation Day. And this year we'll have Transformation Day at the Big Sky Literacy Summit. But we thought, why not do a New Year's transformation kind of moment? We're not going to be doing this all day. We're doing it like for an hour. So this is like a moment. And we are so grateful you are here. And I am so grateful, my colleagues, my mentors, my coaches. These are all people in my life who raised me up, who helped me through hard times, who push me forward, who keep me thinking. So I'm going to just give you a quick introduction. We have Terry Noland coming to us out of actually Tuscola, Texas today. She's been hanging out in Fort Worth for a while, but she's in Tuscola. And we have Teresa Owens over in Walla Walla, Washington. Okay. And we have Donnie Hill from Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're all coming from all over the United States. Where are you coming from? We want to see it in the chat box. Today in chat box, just chat it up. We're all able to see it. If you have questions and you want us to answer things, please pop it in the Q&A because we will see that as panelists. I'm seeing you coming in. We have Massachusetts. Awesome. Happy New Year from Georgia. Another Georgia. Oklahoma, Wyoming. Hey, Aaron. All right, Lolita from North Carolina. 10 Sleep, woohoo, Wyoming. And Oklahoma, we have, oh yeah, La Crete, Alberta, Canada. Yeah, Idaho. Hi, Mary. Hey, Kevin. Hi, Katie from Bozeman. We are so grateful you are here. This morning I went on a meditation walk. So I love to meditate. I know it really puts my mind in a new space. And one of the things I really love about finishing it is I always feel better than when I started. And I was in this space of wondering this question, you know, how will you step into your future? What is your future self calling you to do? What energy, what attention, what intention do you have to put in place to rise into that next layer of who you're becoming? Because we're always becoming. And I want to give you a little example. I know my team on here all knows this. There's this gentleman named Ed Milet out there. We all appreciate Ed Milet. He has a great podcast. I recommend it. There was this time in his life where he was with his daughter and he walked into this, or his son. The story is with one of his younger children when they're about 6. And somebody said, appreciate them while they are the age they are, because they'll never be that age again. And Ed was like, I mean, yeah, I get it. Once they're 7, they're not 6 anymore. But what he did is he turned and he looked at the man saying the statement and said, well, do you think that about your own life? Do you think like, oh, when I'm 32 and when you turn 33, you'll never be 32 again? Because as parents, we see the changes in our students, and as teachers, as leaders, we see those changes and we're like, oh yeah, that's 2-year-old behavior, or that's 7-year-old behavior. And maybe that's 22-year-old behavior. But what we're here today for is Transformation Day, is to remind you that no matter how old you are, look in the back, look behind you and be like, that's my past self. My future self is calling me. What is it that I'm going to step into in 2025? Isn't that exciting? So we are going to just share with you quick a little thought process. On our social media, we had this question, and this is what it looked like. what will it take for you to reach your goals in 2025? What is your future self calling you to do? And what do you need to maximize your potential? Okay, so those questions kind of will bring us into focus today. And as each one of these mentors teaches us and inspires us and pushes us and coaches us into our new self to really ponder our goals, we also want you to think about how about a coach, a mentor, and a family and a supportive group of colleagues that could help you. That's why you're here. And we really want you to know that we're here every Wednesday and we're here every Monday. So some of you are out there and you are in our mentorship group, and we're so grateful. And some of you, this is new. We'd love for you to join us and be a part of this opportunity to keep growing even after the new year. So just start thinking about, what are your goals? What is that future self looking like? Is it a teacher who's reached 95% in their first grade classroom? Are you a principal who can't wait for your school to get the MTSS system rocking and rolling? Are you a superintendent who really has figured out that you need to address how the science of reading is being implemented, and really looking at implementation science and the science of learning and the science of teaching? Are you a mom out there who's wondering how your school district is going to meet the needs of your student and what that's going to look like for you? So what is that future self in you calling you to do? And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our colleague Teresa Owens. But first, I want to have each one of us give a shout out. So Terry Nolan, you want to give a shout out to the crowd?
Absolutely. Happy New Year. Welcome. We are here. I always think it's really interesting the way that people behave the week before the new year. And oh, I'm going to start that on the new year. It'll be a new, fresh beginning. And I always say to myself, why? How come you can't make a change any day of the year? Why wait? And so I know today is the first day of the new year, but a week from now, 10 days from now, when all of those ambitions and all of those intentions start to wane, say to yourself, well, why can't I start anytime throughout the year? So we're going to charge you up today, but don't forget you can charge up anytime throughout the course of the year.
Thank you, Terry. And Teresa, you want to add to that?
I can, yeah. As you were talking, Danielle, one of the things that I thought about or just flashed into my brain was, this is going to date me, but I remember my second year of teaching, the first graders were celebrated as the graduating class of 2000. Whoa. And now I think I'm in 2025. And it doesn't, I mean, I remember that. It seems like yesterday, and yet it seems like ages ago. And I think about everything that has transpired, everything that has changed, everything that has transformed, not only in me personally, but in education as a whole. It's just phenomenal. And I think we're on the brink of something new and exciting. And I think we feel that every year, but I feel it especially this year, 2025. It sounds good.
I agree. You're right. And I mean, I wonder, Teresa, from the years we were in Bush, Alaska, if we could have imagined ourselves where we are right now, and if we thought we would be doing what we're doing. So just think big, and remember we have infinite potential. Just reach for it. And Donnie, what are you thinking?
Hello, everybody. I'm just listening to you all and I'm already getting excited. Someone dropped in the chat, every day is a new day to do better. And I totally agree with that. And I will add, is it day one or is it one day? So I think today needs to be our day one, right? And not one day. We can no longer go into another day saying, well, one day I'm going to do ... It's our time and we need to go ahead and get on that now. And like Terry said, we don't necessarily have to wait for the start of a new month or the first of the week or whatever. Why don't we take steps to do that now? And so I'm looking forward to hearing about all that we're doing and how we can just transform this day and transform this new year. And it will start with us.
That's right. Thank you, Donnie. So each one of us has a teaching and unique to us and unique to share with you because we care about you and we know that the impulses that we're getting from our Creator, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, for us, that power is coming into us, and we're very clear that who we are and who we share our information with. You're ready to be inspired. You're ready to take another step. And so we're just showing up for you, and we care to show up for you and answer your questions, to mentor you, to be your coaches. We want to be a part of that forward momentum in your lives. That's why we choose to do this. That's why we're showing up today. That's why we show up every Wednesday in Wednesday Wisdom in our mentorship group. So today we're going to kick off with Teresa. So Teresa, take it away.
All righty. Well, one of the things that I think about that happens when we come into a new year, and I think it was Terry that spoke to this a little bit, is that we tend to reflect a bit. And reflections are a good thing. It's a way to learn, to grow, to change. And so we reflect and we look at the way things were, but we don't want to dwell on those things. So we come into this new year, it's like an absolute fresh start. There's amazing, amazing possibilities. Everything is fresh, it's new, exciting. And the one thing it's full of is hope. As we leave 2024, I think it is necessary, though, to reflect a bit on the road that's been traveled. How did you meet those bumps in the road? How did you face those challenges? What did you do to move yourself or propel yourself forward? How did you set goals that you were able to keep in spite of some of those obstacles that hit us? And when I was preparing this chat, I was like, is this a little bit of a downer? Because we have to kind of look at the fact that, even in the new year, full of hope, we're probably going to face some obstacles. But I think you guys will get where I'm going. So as I reflected, something happened in 2024 for me. And it wasn't honestly until, you know how you have Google Photos or Apple's, and they bring you up this memory. And so Google Photos said, would you like to see the year in photos? And so I clicked my phone and I was like, oh, that'll be fun. And I clicked on it. And I had to just kind of go, oh, wow, it was a bit of a tough year. But because I'm hopeful and I have great faith, it wasn't as hard, or it's not as hard now. So I'm calling 2024 the year of pink. So a little background, if you haven't heard this story, I'm going to keep it very brief, but I think it's important to hear. So on December 15th, 2023, and mind you, I'm not a person that remembers dates, especially dates of bad things, but I don't even remember dates of good things. I'm just not a date person. But I remember that one because it happened to be my husband's and my wedding anniversary. And we were getting ready to go out to dinner, and I'd had a funny mammogram. And so we were kind of waiting for a phone call. And sure enough, about a half hour before we were supposed to go to dinner and celebrate our wedding anniversary, I received a diagnosis of breast cancer. And honestly, it threw a lot of my dreams and hopes for 2024 into some really crazy places. Even though I'm a kind of a relaxed person in most parts, I do like to kind of have control of things and know what's going to happen next and that. And if you've ever received a diagnosis like this, you really are not in control. A whole bunch of other people seem to be in control of what's going on. I know Terry can speak to that a little bit with having her little grandbaby born so early and being in the NICU this year, is that things that you would like to control yourself are not controlled by you. They're controlled by other people's schedules and things like that. So from a super healthy person, I faced things I had never expected. Way, way, way too many mammograms, doctor's appointments, loads of them, poking, prodding, biopsies with like ginormous needles, eventual surgery, radiation, and finally medication that I'm going to take for the next 5 years. And it's not really fun. But the prognosis is excellent. This was not my plan for 2024. I didn't plan to do any of those things. But in reflecting on all of it, I realized that from the beginning of this, I didn't act out of fear, but instead I chose to always be positive, always be hopeful, and always be full of faith. It carried the day, and now 2025 looks much brighter. You know, when you go through stuff like that, it is kind of interesting because you, I just wanted to flash some pictures of me being very positive and faithful there. Let me pull up this screen a little differently, slide something over. So there I am in all of my glory, fighting like a girl. That little sign there is something that is in the radiation oncology area. And then on the right there is some little pink boxing gloves that a friend sent me that talked about fighting pretty. And I loved that. And they were bright pink. And, you know, so I was constantly, when I'd be at a stop sign, I would put up my dukes and do some boxing with those boxing gloves. And the whole time was thinking to myself, you know, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. So it was exciting. I'm gonna escape that down a little bit. And I learned a lot about how I reacted to things. Was it going to be faith or was it going to be fear? Now, I have a really cool video clip here that I'm going to put on, and I want you just to enjoy the next couple of minutes of that. If I can get it to go here.
Did you know that fear and faith have one thing in common besides the letter F? They both believe in a future that hasn't happened yet. Fear believes in a negative future. Faith believes in a positive future. But if neither has happened yet, why wouldn't we believe in a positive future? Why wouldn't we believe that our best days are ahead of us, not behind us? It makes sense, right? And yet the ultimate challenge we face every day is between fear and faith. I've heard it said that fear is the second most powerful force in the universe because it's the one thing that can keep us from our destiny. Regardless of your religion, I think you'll find it interesting that Jesus said, "Fear not," 365 times in the Bible, one for every day of the year, because he knew fear is what holds us back from being all that we're meant to be. The interesting thing about the power of fear is that its power only comes from the power we give it. On its own, fear has no power. Fear is based on a lie. Lies that you aren't strong enough, good enough, pretty enough, wealthy enough, talented enough. Fear says you can't do it, won't do it, aren't worthy enough to do it. Fear shouts that outside circumstances and events have power over you. Fear screams for you to give up. Your situation and future is hopeless, and yet it's all an illusion. It isn't true. It's a lie. It's why many say that fear stands for false evidence appearing real. It seems real, but it isn't. Fear is like the monster in a child's room. When you turn on the light, you realize the monster isn't real and it disappears. Knowing what's real and true is like turning on the light. And what's real is that outside circumstances have no power over you. What's true is that you create your world from the inside out. What's real is that you are worthy, unique, and wonderfully made. What's true is that faith is more powerful than fear. What's real is that when you have faith, anything is possible. Your situation can turn around. There's a plan for you. There is hope for you. Great things are coming your way. The future hasn't happened yet. Keep moving forward. Have faith. You will create a positive future. I believe. You?
So to kind of carry on, I've got a little, I love me a little bit of Rocky Balboa. I was a big Rocky, dun, 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 dun. Not just during my battle, but I loved Rocky when I was a kid. So there's this great line in his movie. He says, he's giving his kid a pep talk, and he says, you, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, I hope that none of us get hit this next year. I hope none of us get bothered next year. I hope none of us have huge obstacles in our road, but we may have some. And when we do, what is it? In our school, is it going to be, maybe we've got a bunch of new teachers. Maybe we've got somebody that we're having a big conflict with that we have to change, something that we have to fix. How are we going to meet those obstacles, and what are we going to do with them? Faith or fear? What will it be? So we all have these obstacles in our path. How are you going to meet them, and how are you going to greet them? Each day, I loved what Donnie was saying about not one day, but day one. When you get up in the morning, it's new, it's fresh. I remember always talking to kids who might have made some poor choices and got into trouble, and maybe they had to be suspended. It was not something I wanted to do all the time, but I worked in a district where there are some things that were no tolerance, and kids had to be suspended. But I always told them, you know what? We're moving on from this. And I would talk to their teachers and I say, you do not rehash this tomorrow morning with them, or you do not rehash this when they get sent back to your classroom after visiting with me in the office. It is a fresh new start. Day one or one day. I think the day one is where we want to go. So I'm encouraging you to pick up a mantle of faith and make a conscious effort to be the overcomer this year, regardless of what hits you, regardless of what comes your way. You are the overcomer with grace, humility, love, and hope for great things that are going to greet us every single day. I love this quote, Bob Marley. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. I'm not sure what the situation was that Bob Marley was in at that point in time, but I think it's important that we think about those things. You don't know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. And again, I'm referencing Terry because I know she's been through some tough things recently, but I also know Donnie had some struggles early on with the baby as well. So it's like, you don't know how strong you are until being strong is that only choice. So as we move into 2025, remember, if you've been with us in our mentoring class, we've been talking about 100-day goals and objectives. So we want to make sure that we set challenging but reachable goals and objectives. I would caution you to say this: don't let other people or circumstances set your goals for you or limit what you think your goals are. So remember, you're going to set challenging but reachable goals and objectives for you. Surround yourself. Danielle talked about this in the slide that she put out to people, was one of the questions. Who do you surround yourself with? Who's going to help you with this? And I say, surround yourself with people who will help you when you struggle or lose some hope. Surround yourself with people who challenge your thoughts and ideas and help you grow. Adapt, improvise, and change as needed to reach your goals. Plan to learn, grow, and challenge your own self and your own thinking. And then be a little bit more like Winnie the Pooh. When asked what day was his best day, he said, "Today is always my best day. And I'm going to finish with a quote by Maya Angelou. You may encounter defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, and how you can still come out of it. All right, so thanks. Cheers to 2025, everybody.
Woo! Thank you, Teresa.
Teresa. Mm.
Yeah, that you know, Marley's quote, I was sitting there writing it down, and you never know how strong you are until, yeah, something comes along. What a great way to start the year.
Yeah.
Really, life is full of surprises, right?
It is. And some of them are not fun, but you put your face forward and you say, I'm going for this regardless of what happens. And I think sometimes that's tricky in a school district, because sometimes we're facing obstacles of maybe the district office isn't supportive. So you're trying to figure out, how do I manipulate that into something that I can work with? And how do I still continue to grow and push forward? Yeah.
You know, I was reading an Adam Grant quote in preparing for today, and it was one of the favorites from 2024. He always reposts the top liked quotes, and one of them, it really hit me hard. And I think going to that central office thing, or wherever you are in life right now, everybody, when you know things are hard around you, to really to have those friends around you, like, okay, I know it's hard, it's real, it's hard, what's the next best step, right? What's the next thing we can do, right? And I think Donnie's going to lead us into that dialogue. But really acknowledging, Adam Grant was saying, is that, yeah, this isn't all roses, and this isn't all like, let me send you some good vibes, it's all going to work out. It's like, no, let's acknowledge where we are. Let's figure it out. This, you know, we have, life is hard sometimes, and seeing people in that space and knowing that we have to elevate and lift each other up through those spaces, and acknowledge exactly where you're at. So I was really grateful to read that yesterday, because I have my nephew went through surgery yesterday, and we know some of our mentees out there facing some big things. We've been getting some texts in while we've been listening. So we know that we all have hard things happening, and we want to let you know that we're not here to just say it's going to be fine. No, sometimes it's not just fine. It's life, and it can be hard, and it takes daily action to rise out of it. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wanted to add in there, you know, and sometimes we think, okay, if I get to this next job, if I get to this next position, if I get this next raise, if I get this next thing, then it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. But I heard this great statement: new levels, new devils. And so when you have these new moments in your life, they are new, they are so optimistic, but new levels means new devils. And if that's the case, we better be in a group of individuals that are surrounding us, because if we're not, and that's what this group is all about, is being in a group of surrounding ourselves with people that we can rely on, lean on. And so when we raise into these new levels and grow ourselves, then we've got people that have gone before us or going alongside of us as well.
All right, Donnie, you ready to take it away?
Can I just say one quick thing?
Yeah.
Please do.
We are struggling a bit, some of us, with I can only comment to hosts and panelists for some reason. So I just want to let people know, Kelly is asking if it's possible to become a part of our mentor group and class. And yes, it is. And so the best way to do that is to contact Danielle. And I'm sure at the end of this, there'll be a place, or she'll put some contact information up, because she is able to talk to everyone. So anyway, we are seeing your comments, and we are not ignoring you, but this is kind of a new thing for us. And so we're going to see if we can get some ways to answer you. But just know we appreciate you. And yes, we'd love to have you join us. And we'd love for you to invite some friends along for this journey as well. It's going to be a great 2025.
Thank you, Teresa. And we're going to hand it over to Donnie Hill. Go ahead, Donnie.
Yes, well, you all, that was such a great start. As I think about Teresa, and she mentions that there is hope, and I want to build on that and just kind of indicate that there is hope. In my talk, I thought I was just going to be talking today about your next best step, but I woke up this morning really charged, just thinking that whoever it is amongst us, and maybe it's just myself, that we need to consider while we're waiting. So while we're waiting, and Terry mentioned that a little bit, while we're waiting for the next level, and we're all, at some point of time, it all seems to be that we're in a waiting kind of parameter where we're waiting for the next thing, or we're waiting for whatever it is. So I want to talk about, there is hope while we're waiting. And there are things that we can be in control of, and there are things that we're not going to be in control of in this waiting time. But those things that we can be in control of, mostly ourselves, that there are things that we can plan, and that there are things that we can do while we're waiting. So as Teresa mentioned, fear versus faith, I've heard the quote, fear is faith in reverse. So it's either going to be that fear or the faith. And one thing in that audio that Teresa just played for us is that he mentioned great things are coming our way. And so I believe that while we're waiting, great things are absolutely coming our way. But I want to focus on a few great things that we can do while we're waiting. And when you think about waiting, if you think about just like a physical wait, we're often standing still and we're often not moving. But the waiting that I'm talking about is an active waiting. So waiting while we're actively doing our part until we get to that next, whatever that next is. And you can fill in that blank, ... Is it a fitness plan? Is it a job? Is it a relationship? Whatever it is, there are ways that we can actively wait. And so this type of waiting, once again, is not that we're standing still and waiting idly for something to fall into our laps, but it's more that we're still giving, and that we are still doing, and that we're still learning, and that we're still moving until the next step is manifested. And so this is a hard one, and it can be a really hard one, especially when we see people and things around us that are moving, at least in our minds, they're moving closer to what we think we may have wanted. But that is, something that we've got to then put our blinders on. And I'll talk to you here in a second about our blinders, but we often have to put our blinders on and get refocused and centered into the things that we are called to do and the things that we know for sure that we should be about. So actively waiting is going to be a big one. And that may be, for instance, you getting involved with an activity or a job or a mentorship or something that will also be building you for that next opportunity, for that next whatever. We know that while we're actively waiting, the building of ourselves and focusing on ourselves is going to be a big bonus for everyone involved, especially of ourselves. As Teresa mentioned, we've got to set our own goals and objectives, and you all have been talking about that in mentorship, but we've got to be the setter of those goals and objectives, and not someone else setting those goals and objectives for us. We can't let life happen to us, right? If we don't make a decision, we have already made the decision. And so that decision is that we are just allowing anything to happen, but we can actively wait and decide, what am I going to do? What are the goals that I'm going to plan on? What am I going to commit to finishing this week, next week, the week after that? The next thing I want to speak about, so we've got actively waiting. Now we have our best yes. Now this hit me. This is a book that I read years ago, and it is about not saying yes to everything, because we can't say yes to everything. It is about making the decisions to choose our best yeses. How many of you all have been in those situations where you are the yes person? Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this. But then you turn around and you say, why did I say yes to that? That is not the best use of my time. It's something that's good, but it's not necessarily something that I need to be spending my time with right now. And so I want to encourage you that maybe it's a no for now, but not a no for later. So this best yes is making those decisions and negotiating where we spend our time and where we spend our energy. And yes, that may look good for Danielle or for Terry or for Teresa, but maybe that's not my best yes right now, but maybe that'll be my best yes later. And so really kind of negotiating that it is okay to say no. It is okay to say no, and it's okay to say no and not give an explanation of why you are saying no. And that goes with having faith to know that you can actually be the best steward of your own time and of yourself. And so your best yes is going to serve you in this season of while you are waiting for the next, whatever it is. The third thing I want to mention is staying in your own lane. You want to put on your horse racing blinders. And I saw Teresa do this as she said, focus. And it reminded me, and I had this thought as well. If you think about a horse race, the horses have racing blinders on. And horse racing blinders, if you think about it, and I looked it up, and what it mentioned is that horse racing trainers indicate that blinders keep horses focused on what is in front, encouraging them to pay attention to the race rather than the distractions such as the crowd, such as that person who just got a raise, such as that person who just got married or had their first child or has their 10th grandchild, whatever it may be. We are often distracted with the things that other people are accomplishing and that they are doing and that it seems so wonderful and big, but it's helping us, or it's distracting us, but it's keeping us off of what we should be doing right now while we're waiting in this season of our lives. So I encourage you to relieve yourselves of the distraction of people, of the hopes, of all of those things, and really focus in on what are the things that Donnie Hill, what am I supposed to be accomplishing right now? While I am waiting to go to ... as I think about my plan, what do I need to be focused on? Not anyone else. What do I need to do? And how can I stay in my own lane to do that? And Teresa mentioned this as well. Consider your village. We have to reevaluate who we are surrounding ourselves with. Are they people who build us? Or are they people who pull us down? When you tell them an amazing thing about what you have accomplished or what you're doing, are they saying, well, why do you want to do that? Pay attention to people's responses and consider that maybe those are not the people in this season while you're waiting that you need to be surrounding yourself around. Maybe 2 seasons ago they were great, but you're a new person. And as Danielle and as Terry mentioned, we are looking in the future. And when you think about looking forward, you can't look back and look forward at the same time. It's like looking in a rearview mirror. You can't look in the rearview mirror and pay attention to what's happening with traffic ahead. So we've got to focus ourselves ahead and focus ourselves also on who we are surrounding ourselves with. And the last thing I want to focus on is our next best step. So we have our goals. We've got our longer term goals. We have our 100-day plans that we're considering. I want you to also consider, what is your next best step? Meaning, what is something that you could do as your day one to get you to complete or to get you one step closer to being at that goal or accomplishing that plan? And that takes a lot, because sometimes we think that, oh, it's such a small step. Wonderful. Build on small steps, because small steps, when you look back at them, will equal a full, large kind of plan or a goal. But we've got to stay focused with our blinders on these individual steps that are going to get us there. So we write these individual steps. Years ago, Danielle, we used to talk about her Friday finishers, right, Danielle? Your Friday finishers, those things that she wants to finish on Friday, that's going to take her to over the edge. And for me, I took it one step further and I started doing like monthly finishers. What do I want to accomplish by the end of this month? What is going to set me a little bit ahead? Or, sometimes it may have to, that I have to move that finisher over to the next month. Okay, that's fine. What do I need to do to focus on it that next time? But what is our next best step? it may be that it does not look anything like what you thought it was going to look like. Maybe you thought it was going to be this, but really it was going to be this smaller step. Maybe you thought it was going to be this leadership position, but maybe you needed to go into a position of where you needed to figure out a little bit more about what it was to be a follower. Because if you can't be well to follow directions, it's going to be hard for you to then possibly lead people who were like you. So what is that next best step that you can take to be able to get you on this plan? And I will say this as I close. As we think about actively waiting, as we think about your best yes in this season and staying in your own lane and considering your village and finally your next best step, I want you to remember to don't forget or remember, don't find yourself postponing joy any longer. And someone told me that, and I thought that was just wonderful. And Terry mentioned that, we're like, when I get to, no, don't postpone joy any longer. Find joy while you're waiting in every step until you get to that next, until you get to wherever it is. Find joy. Have a happy new year. And ladies, come on back so we can.
Woohoo! That was great, Donnie. Oh my gosh. The years of our time together as friends, everybody out there, when it comes time to saying, who should I ask to light up the room on New Year's Day? These are three humans that have lit up my life for quite some time. And I'm so grateful that you get to experience them and be in their energy and share in their wisdom. And so, Donnie, that was just such a treat. Thank you.
Well,
Danielle, you had me over here singing "You Light Up My Life," so maybe we all break out in chorus.
Teresa will be playing that song, I'm sure, next week.
I'm sure I could crank it out right now. I was actually thinking of what Donnie said. I thought that was kind of funny that, yes, I'm one of those, I have to have the hand motions and things, but yeah, that whole thing of staying focused on where you're going. And often I think almost all of us ran track, or, I was on the track team. I didn't run a lot, but I threw all the fine objects. But I remember coaches just constantly telling the sprinters, especially those 100 meters, there's not a lot of room for error. And one of the things they would always say is, keep focused forward. Don't turn to see where somebody else is, because as soon as you turn, you lose your focus and people speed by you. So we don't want you to turn and lose your focus.
so distracting, right? It's just distracting, and we don't need distractions. We have enough things to distract us on a regular time, right? On a day-to-day basis.
Well, and Donnie, you had me thinking about, we all know that phrase FOMO, the fear of missing out. And I think that fear of missing out gets our focus out of whack, off kilter.
Yeah.
Oh, then I got to go over here and learn this. Oh, no, I got to go do that. Oh, I got to go here. I got to do all of that. And then your statement about joy, maybe it's not FOMO. Maybe we should have JOMO, the joy of
Right.
missing out. Because if I relish in the joy of missing out and stay focused on what I need to do, then I am going to find my joy where I am and leave all that chatter and chaos out there where I can stay focused.
That's good.
And I think in the world we live in, I will share a quick story. My daughter, or stepdaughter, Katie, said one time, her, obviously significantly younger than me and grew up with a lot more technology and that. And she said, Teresa, sometimes I feel like my generation is always looking for the next best thing. And we miss out on things because we're always looking for, well, maybe this would be better. Maybe this would be better. And I think it started when that conversation started, when a friend of hers got a degree in something, started working in it, and then didn't give it more than a couple months. And they were like, I don't like this. And they were looking for the next best thing. And she thought, what a tragedy. that they're constantly looking for other things instead of saying, let me see if I can give this time. Let me see if I can get this to work. Let me see if I can be focused on this. So just a thought.
So grateful, so grateful. In the meantime, while you were lighting it up, Donnie, we got an image from a teacher that I just deeply appreciate, and she just got accepted into the MSJ program. Donnie is a doctoral student at Mount St. Joseph, and so Donnie will be meeting our mentee out there who will be coming on the program in May. So really excited for that. She had a whiteboard with all these quotes written down that she sent, and I'll be sure to share it with all y'all when we're off. But it was great. So isn't it great? And we're so excited for Donnie, and the future is getting more meaningful in impact when we have all these voices of impact pulling in from all these experiences that we've had to bring this work forward. And that leads us into my talk, which is I would like for Teresa, Donnie, and Terry to stay on for a hot minute, because in my talk, what I've done is I've actually I've put it's an actual educational one about education. So if you give me a minute, I'm going to bring it up and we'll get it going. And I would love for Teresa and Donnie and Terry to just kind of ruminate with me on the idea that 2025, as Teresa said, it is going to be amazing. We're going to come alive in new ways this year. I really believe it. And I have worked with Donnie since 2020, when we actually wrote a science of reading curriculum for a state department that some of you might know out there because you're from the state. And we helped build out a science of reading professional development platform together. And Donnie, wouldn't you say that there was a lot of progress for us during those years? Absolutely. But the one thing we can say now, 5 years later, is that we might change our minds about some of the stuff that we put in there.
Absolutely.
I mean, and this is what this component's about, because in 2020, the pandemic hit us, and there was this rush of social media and rush of being online, and we were all really filled with information. It was an information overload, yet we were in complete isolation in our homes. And it was just inundation. And I think that led to exhaustion. It led to many things. And we now have much research coming out about this. But the one thing that I have been pondering lately, and what I want to elevate our thinking about as we move into 2025, is we all learned an incredible amount of information about the science of reading. I mean, there were Facebook pages created just for the science of reading. There were all these groups that started discussing, how do we teach all children so that all children can learn to read? I tell you what, lately, actually, since about October or November, I have been doing a walking meditation that's called the box meditation. And you create this new box, and my new box is a box where all children are literate. All schools have what they need. They're filled with love and joy and happiness, and teachers are just waking up and getting after because they love it. And leaders show up because it's the most exciting thing that they could ever do, is lead humanity into the future. And I get done with my walk and I'm basically running, because who wouldn't want to run to that future, right? And one of the things that we've realized as mentors in this work is that we have to change our minds about things. And sometimes, what we learned in 2020 and 2021 and what we led, what decisions we made, maybe we have to keep evolving our work, maybe keep evolving how we made that decision. So I want the team to stay on, because I wanted them to talk through this slide with me, because Terry and I, how many months ago was it, Terry?
Many more months than like a year.
Well, when
we changed this.
No, just change. Yeah, we created this about a year ago, but then
exactly, but changed it probably 3 months ago.
Yeah, we just realized that, to the point of this quote, progress is impossible without change. Okay. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. So all of a sudden, we changed our minds. We decided what, Terry? That what wasn't first?
Yeah, so what happened in this slide? See, where science of reading is the last thing on this slide in this progression. We actually had it first for over a year, 18 months of teaching this content. It was first, the science of reading. This is the thing, man. This is what comes first. And the neuroscience of leadership was last. And as we're bumping into all of this work across this country, state departments, local LEA, school districts, anything that we came across was, we have done this wrong. We have done it backwards in a sense, and started with the science of reading, the content knowledge, but what we hadn't done was develop the people. We hadn't developed the people to lead the work. And I think that is where our hindsight is always 2020 has come into play. It was good that we've got decades of research around the science of reading, but if we haven't developed the people to lead it, it's not going to go very far. You're going to see some changes, yeah, but you're not going to see massive transformation. So we flip them and say now, leadership, developing yourself, growing yourself, that's got to come first.
Teresa, I think this is important, and Donnie, I want to hear your point to Terry's, why we flipped it. You were a principal, you were a special education director. Can you think back to the years of leading this work and putting evidence-based practice, not just saying the science of reading, but we used to always just say evidence-based practice, right? What happens to you when you think about, well, what if I had led it differently?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the keys that I always think about, Danielle, is number one, I think you are a great leader, a great instructor, a great educator when you can realize that you may have made mistakes and then fix them. And when Danielle and I first started this work way, way, way back, when we did a presentation in front of every principal in the state of Alaska, and one of the things that I actually said, and Danielle kind of backed me up because she was speech and language pathologist, she wasn't a teacher, is I said, I had to realize that the way I was teaching, and mind you, I was a special ed teacher, I was supposed to have the expertise, the way I have been teaching children for the last 15 years has actually been wrong. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. But the joy comes in flipping that script and beginning to do it right. But I do think, Danielle, one of the biggest keys is, as a leader, basically saying, you know what, this is where we're at, and this is how we can get kids places. But for me, my power was always in building up and leading. I had people that knew more about reading instruction and literacy and pushing kids further than they could ever go when I was at Creekside Park Elementary in Alaska, my first principal gig. But my gift was for making people realize that they were that good. They knew what they were doing, and to encourage them and move them forward. And a lot of times in schools, you have all these people that have all the skills, but nobody is leading the charge. And I believe without the leader, so you guys are right on the money here. Leading comes first, and then it progresses to get to the science of reading. So right on, Danielle and Terry.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And, Donnie, when I think of your life story and our friendship, and you have such incredible personal leadership. And I think you exemplified that today. And when you were talking, I was thinking about this slide and about how we can actually have active weighting in each of these domains. Like maybe I'm not the leader or the leader I thought I could be, or maybe I'm not leading myself enough, but there's a space of like, well, get into that active weighting space. Like, what is it that you have to learn to grow into that? What do you have to? So I just really always try to think through, what is it that you're teaching me, which I loved, and what is it that you're going to say yes to, was the next one, right? And I was thinking about when Terry and I created this slide, it forced us to have to say yes to things like learning about all these sciences and really getting clear with like how could we teach that? What does that mean in relationship to what we've been doing in this work? I found gave us the foundation of think of where we were in 2020, the inundation of information, all the stuff that we learned. And now knowing what we know, I would love for you're in a doctoral program, you're learning a lot of information, you're growing into this work, Donnie, even at a greater level than probably getting more new information than Teresa, Terry, and I. And so how does this slide hit you?
Well, I mean, it really hits me. I think back just to what Teresa mentioned, and I really think that was a wonderful upgrade that you all made to this slide, because as I think about it, as I think about my journey just as a human, but then adding as a doctoral student, I've had a lot of personal growth that has happened in my time, right? A lot of knowledge has transpired. I've learned a lot. I'm gaining a lot of knowledge in my key areas. My big thing is that I feel like my personal growth and my organizational kind of all of that that's in that first box are the things that I am growing and learning and really like kind of sitting in, because I feel like if I can develop this part of me, the other things will come. The other things, because that's like, okay, give me a training, hook me up with the right people. But it's the human stays with me, right? The human stays with all of us. And that's what we carry from place to place. And as Teresa was mentioning, just the overall thought of what we can do, I think about at every school building and every job, the human represents themselves at that place. And so what are we representing of ourselves, and what's the personal growth that we develop each and every day? And it's going to start there, because I can bring on and do the science of reading, but what do I believe as a person of how that's going to really impact me and impact students? Do I believe it's a human right? So this is just really powerful to start with the people development, the personal development. I just one example of that, and then now you keep on going. I just remember being at a school where I directed a group of clinicians, and I mean, we had a team of 50 some odd clinicians, therapists, and all of the above. And I really got pushback because, my deal is, as I'll say each time, I'm going to talk to the human. I need to talk to the human. It is usually my deal. And I wanted to talk to the human because they were all great in their field. But the human beings that were showing up were not necessarily at the top of their game, right? They knew all the information, but they weren't like the best human beings that I knew that they could be. And so I started doing this personal development, and I got so much pushback. Like they were going to HR to talk about why I was offering them personal development. It was not mandatory, but it was opportunities for them to develop as people and for them to develop as, organizational change, all of the above. And they were giving pushback. And I said, if I get sent to the HR office for anything, let it be sent because I am trying to improve you as a person versus I'm trying to get you to do things that are against policies and all of that. I said, let me be sent for that. And so I kind of go back to that, was like, yes, see, that was the right way to do it. Develop the people and everything else should come.
Oh, that's awesome, Donnie. As I push the slide ahead, I didn't mean to do that. What a meaningful thought process you just took us through, that people development component and personal growth. And you just brought it back to the core of the work that Terry and I, along with a colleague, Jeannie Shop, helped us think through a lot of things too, that we created a 6-day literacy leadership course, and we've had the privilege of, Terry and I have had the privilege of rolling this course out now in the state of Wisconsin. We also are beginning, I began a project in Idaho. Terry and I will begin with Teresa a new project in California, really leading with this work, with this slide. So getting your feedback, dump it into the chat box so we can get feedback. Ask us questions, and the Q&A will answer them. I answered some that came directly to me, and I'm really taking Terry, Teresa, and Donnie's comments and popping them back into the chat so everybody can read them too.
And before
So,
you progress, I just want to say one quick little thing here. See, because in this work as educators, the first box has been assumed. We've committed a suicide in this work in education, in all fields, in fact, but we're
Yeah.
in education, and we have assumed that people develop and grow on their own. And that is a false assumption. And so now what we are doing is shining this light. We are putting a spotlight on that first box. That's what today is all about. We are no longer assuming. We are saying this is what has to be done if we're going to see the future where children are readers.
Yeah, so make no mistake, everybody. When we say we are literacy leadership mentors, we mean we're helping you lead. And you know, if you want to lead in phonemic awareness, small group instruction as it moves into the print orthographic mapping, we're going to help you do that too. We're all great reading teachers. But we've realized that missing link is this leadership component, and we want to be here to help you mentor you through that. So thanks to all of you out there who are a part of it, who are sharing your thoughts on how this group has been helping you. So the next slide, everybody's going to stay on. So we're going to move from, ultimately the goal is to, for me, and this next segment is to say, let's move out of the sciences of leading, implementation, teaching, and learning and reading to actual literacy transformation. So you're not stuck in each silo, but you're actually having to integrate and internalize the work within each one, and neither can operate without the other. That is the hardest part, I think, right now, because what happened right before the break is I had received an email that had a little sentence that will stick with me for a long time, and it's going to inspire a few talks, I think. And it said, Nell, you helped us make a decision 5 years ago to do this, basically the journey of the science, down the path of the science of reading. We just can't keep changing. And I had to sit with that. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm not asking you to change, I'm asking you to evolve, because once you make the decision, you have to make the decision right. That comes from Jim Collins' work, Good to Great. You make a decision to say, yes, we're going to choose and move into the science of reading, but that doesn't mean, oh, it's done, it's over, I don't have to do anything else. It requires people development. It requires personal leadership. It requires personal growth. It requires learning about what it means to implement and de-implement, learning about what that incredible brain in front of you is doing through the science of learning, and why your teaching impacts that brain in the way it does. And then learning about your teaching process, the routines you hold each day that actually enable the learning to occur, that open up the space for allowance and receptivity. And then you build in the evidence-based practices of reading and writing and language, the sciences of reading. Now, that's a lot. And to me, making a decision 5 years ago, yeah, sure, I helped you make a decision to follow the science of reading. But what I now think I need to do is say, you're making a decision to change every day from this day forward, and you're going to make a decision to make it right every day. And that means right by children, right by your teachers, right by your community, because each of you serves a different ecosystem. Each of you serves a different student, a different teacher, a different family in different regions of the United States with different languages, with different family structures. So we all have different ecosystems to serve. And so I now want us to move into a space of like, yeah, we went down that path and we came alive in 2020 with all this information, but it doesn't mean that I made a decision as a superintendent or as a principal or as a district office, and now my teachers are just gonna have to do it. That we bought them the curriculum, we did all those things, they're just gonna have to do it. I want you to make it right. I want you to evolve with the work, to lead the work, to grow the work. So that's where we're going with this next evolution in this work. So, you guys can turn your mics, your cameras off if you want. And I will just I'll drive it home with some beautiful slides. A few weeks ago, actually, I was asked to be part of a talk where the superintendent of Florida, who was named the superintendent of the year and has gone on to be one of the choices for national superintendent of the year, we run a grade level reading webinar. And I really wanted to think about how superintendents lead this work well, and basically what I'm saying, that making that decision and then making it right. And one of the things I have deeply realized in this work is humility and actively waiting, as Donnie stated, and as Teresa talked about, just really being humbled by the bumps in the road, but knowing that you can get back up. And it's how you respond to the bump in the road, your reaction. Are you taking action, or are you having a reaction, right? So really taking action. And if you've been part of mentorship in the last month, we've talked about something called the 100-day strategy or the 100-day plan. And I think about how leaders in this work do this work. So I'm going to challenge you with a new graphic I created based on a quote, ultimately, that comes out of from a superintendent in Wisconsin. So levels of change and innovation. As leaders, that means a teacher in your classroom, you could be a grade level leader, a coach, a principal, a superintendent, in the C-suite, a parent, wherever you're leading from, there are levels of change and innovation in this work. And how do we work to maximize this potential within the system? I gave it this graphic that our district leaders are way up here in the air. This is called the air game, okay? District leaders are looking at large observable things like big sets of data, movement towards a goal. They have urgency in the moment about a system. They're looking at, how is this system operating? What is it? Is this protocol working? Did we get that walkthrough dialed in? Are we having this data dialogue every 3 months? They're very much dialed in on how their principals are leading the buildings. They are observing those things. They're checking in on those things. There must be patience and discipline in charting and navigating the course. That is their big job, that leadership mantle. And you know, great leaders know and see more and before everyone else. So when I received that comment of like, but you helped us make this decision 5 years ago, why are you encouraging us to continue to change? I'm like, what I want to evolve that into is to teach a leader to always know you have to know more, and you have to know it before you're asking your teachers to do something, to evolve something, to challenge themselves into taking on a new intervention curriculum, a new protocol around assessment. You have to know more and before, and I promise you the science is evolving. So it's a constant state of evolution for a leader. You can't make a decision 5 years ago to buy a new curriculum that's based on the science of reading and say, woo, we're done. Let's move on to MTSS. It's over. No. You have to say, whoa, we just got a curriculum. What is all the training that needs to happen? What are all the things I need to stay urgent about? Are my leaders tuned into what the instruction looks like in the classroom? How is the science of learning looking? Are the students engaged, and are the teachers preparing the lessons for the students to receive it in a way that really activates that experience? And then are they delivering on the promise of the science of reading? What is the data telling us? That's a constant iterative process. And then there's also the leadership that's just below district leaders. There are school leaders. Now, our school leaders are observing increasingly larger increments of change. It's not at the base level of, did all students learn the alphabet in kindergarten? There's urgency in the moment in a different level than district office. They're very focused on, if a runner ran out the door that day, I always have a moment of thinking about Teresa. We worked in a building together, and you got to be tuned into the runner. If you're that principal and you're the teacher, they're working on that, ensuring that your system around ensuring all children are safe and families are informed. There's great urgency around that for a leader of a building. Your priority are your teachers, and are they safe? Do they have the materials they need? Do they have the resources they need? Do they have the training they need? Have we equipped them? Are you loving on them? Are you really showing up in their lives and seeing them eye to eye and sharing with them in that relationship space? Your urgency is also about the systems in your building and the community you're serving, because each building in a large district is serving a different community. Now, school leaders have to be very patient and have great discipline about continuously communicating the vision. The vision is, and walk in the halls and stating the vision, because when district office comes in, they're also communicating the vision and expectation. And so that's a synergistic and constantly noted thing. And then they're allowing you to know what the results are. What are our results? Where are we at? What are we doing? And having open dialogue that keeps you in the moment of what you need to be doing. Now, the next part of this graphic is the teachers. Now, teachers have to be very quick to change. I think this is what is the greatest importance of this graphic. I believe when I was on this webinar in early December, what I really noticed is that district offices make big decisions, but teachers actually have to make very fine-tuned, very Ferrari-like decisions. When you turn that wheel, boom, it goes. Because a child's life is at stake. And your decisions in that moment are so urgent, they're so meaningful. And we know as mentors that it's really taxing to have 25 young brains in front of you and to be making those decisions in this urgent way if you don't have that leader above you who's also holding course and having your back and supporting you and with the information you need and the resources you need to deliver on that mission. Okay, so teachers, the difference for me in this graphic is that we really have to understand something. What we're asking teachers to do is very urgent and very in the moment. And when we're at different levels of leadership in school and district level, we're at a different level of urgency and different systems that we're paying attention to. So the teacher, on the other hand, is always very, very patient about long-term results, because you might start to learn the alphabet in kindergarten. I was right before break, I had an experience of being in a second grade where we had 4 students who didn't know more than 10 alphabet letters. Because the teacher was listening to what the district had required, which is teach at grade level. And I noticed there were students who could not grab onto the learning, the science of learning. She had the science of teaching down. She's really tuned to how to deliver. But the piece that wasn't happening was the engaged connection of the student, and the receptivity wasn't there because they didn't have the knowledge to actually, for it to stick, okay? So we had to be responsive to the children in the room and be very urgent to the children in the room. And now I promise you, we're going to see change over time. Because if you're in second grade and you have less than 10 alphabet letters, we can probably learn them quick if we have a really intensive intervention. But there's a responsiveness that has to happen, and then we hold course and we start to get results over time. And we have to be clear that that is part of the process. Now, here's the last part of the graphic. That the air game has to be constantly listening to the ground game. And that is iterative, and that knowing if we're in the rooms of the teachers are the greatest implementation scientists. So when you go back to that 5 sciences slide, and we said that we have to lead it and we have to understand implementation, we also have to get to this point where Tiffany Hogan reminded us in mentorship, our teachers are the greatest implementation scientists every day of their life. They are implementing this work. They are growing with the work. They're feeling when it doesn't work, when it does work, what they have to do to serve the child in front of them. And so listening to them and knowing if the curriculum isn't responsive to the students, if the data isn't coming out the way it is at the air game level, like, whoa, only 64% of our students in 3rd grade are at proficiency level. Well, then the air game should start to listen to what the ground game has to say about maybe the curricular resource. Maybe after 4 years and you've only received 64% proficiency, then something in that directive, that ask of teach grade level, teach only this, which is what, true story in one of my districts, where the data, it is not going to 70%. It hasn't been there, it's stuck, okay? So what is it that we have to change? And there are plenty of teachers within that data set who have maximized potential, who have reached 90%. What are they doing? Is it the same as the teacher who's getting 50%? So really growing with each other and having that dialogue, because this is abundant square. And Terry brought this in when we were talking about fidelity. And I really love thinking about how when you make a decision and you make it right, you've chosen the science of reading, you've chosen a curriculum, you've educated the educator, you've equipped them with what they need. Let's think about the types of phases that we go through. So new curriculum, low knowledge down here in the bottom square. You could have new curriculum, low knowledge, but there are some teachers, as soon as you bring something in, they have high knowledge. They know the evidence-based practices, they've studied the sciences. They are just getting comfortable with the new curriculum. That's different than a teacher who has low knowledge and the curriculum is very much laborious and all new to them. What I'm most fascinated by is after you've made this decision and you want to make it right and you're a few years into implementation, is this box up here on the upper right. A lot of teachers by this point in time, if you haven't had a lot of turnover, and if you've taken on the mantle of equipping educators the way they deserve to be equipped and trained and given the resources and time, you'll have a lot of high knowledge teachers with an existing curriculum who will say, you know why we're getting 64% performance in third grade? Is because this curriculum scope and sequence, or this routine in kindergarten, first grade, or this is happening for only this much time and students need this, this, and this. And they'll be able to give you the details. The ground game can inform the air game of what needs to happen. And this is called the ground game informing the air game, which, because we have trust, we've built trust, credibility, and the teachers have positive and sustained examples of excellence. That I'm going to give you the phrase that our superintendent in Wisconsin taught us a few years ago that Terry and I love to use. We have to give the teachers who have demonstrated excellence and shown us the way, because great leaders know the way and go the way before others do. Those are those teacher leaders who are implementation scientists. We have to give them freedom in those fences. Stay within the boundaries of the science of reading. Stay within the boundaries of the science of learning and teaching. And what we're asking for. Maybe it's a 90% literacy goal, because we have seen this high knowledge do great things in your classrooms. And this existing curriculum, you've maximized its potential and taken it further. And leaders that are listening and value this innovation, then you get this incredible thing that happens. You evolve the system. So I'm just pushing you as you move into this 2025 year is to think about how you can evolve the system. What are the freedoms you can give those who have high knowledge, who've pressed the boundaries of curriculum, who've found the nuances of maximizing potential, and have really helped you understand how you can potentially evolve a system. I have put two ideas out here. What could freedom in the fences look like in 2025 if you're not already doing these things? Differentiating that core from the moment you start school. Meaning that when they walk in the door, if you had 64% performance and all children were being asked to receive grade level phonics, this is foundational skills I'm talking about, for that 60-minute time or 80-minute time or 50-minute time, whatever it is you're allocating to that time. What if they are that second grader who has 10 alphabet letters? Was that grade level meeting their need the moment they walked in the door? What we find is that they need diagnostic prescriptive data to close those gaps. And that wasn't an absentee problem. These are students who had sincere, severe needs, and they needed direct, explicit, systematic instruction. And in classrooms of 30 students, they weren't being seen or heard. So we need to understand differentiation. Teachers are exhausted by the idea that they are to meet 30 students' needs at one time, when we could differentiate it from the start and really think about what's called a walk to read. Okay, and that's an innovation for many, and you can find more about it. I can send you more about it, but Margaret Goldberg wrote a great post on reading rockets. It's on differentiation done right through 6th grade. The other innovation I really, really think that we need to get serious about is oral language. We've done a lot of work around word reading, and to really bring this work into a big evolution, the science of reading is underpinned by oral language. You can't be a great reader without great language. Language comes first. And so really getting language done right in our schools will be an incredible innovation. And giving some freedom in those fences, if you're leading this work, to do this differentiation and to really maximize oral language. Because if an organization values innovation, you can assume it's safe to speak up with new ideas, leaders will listen, and your voice matters. That's research by Adam Grant. And that's kind of where I wanted to leave you today, is just really being grateful for this, come on everybody, idea that we can give teachers some freedom in the fences. We can give more leaders some freedom in the fences when they have the knowledge and they've shown the excellence. And we can innovate this. If you've been doing this for a while, or if you're just jumping in, those are two different spaces, okay? But if you've been doing it a while, this talk should really resonate with you. Like, where are those moments to flex and give people more freedom and really understand where that next level could be? So any thoughts, team?
Oh my gosh, I love the freedom in the fences, because I think I was, when we first started with like reading, the end of reading first, and that it was so rigid in this fidelity issue that everything had to be taught exactly the same to every single child in the core, and and so for me, thinking about some of these brilliant and amazing teachers that I had, to have been able to say to them, these are the parameters of your fence, and feel free to move in that pasture to create what you need for each and every child. And I just powerful stuff. For those of you that are new on here, I just heard about the freedom in the fences, what, like a month or so ago. I was like, blew my mind. So I love it. I will say before I sign off here, but I do have a prior commitment, and I love all of you. I wish you the best for an amazing Happy New Year. It breaks my heart I can't hear my friend Dr. Terry speak, but I'm so glad this is recorded, and I know I leave you in absolutely the best hands. So thank you, everybody, and I wish you just absolute great school year, and I will see you later. See you in mentorship.
Yeah, thank
Take care,
you,
everybody.
Teresa. Thank you. All right, any thoughts, Terry and Donnie, before Terry drives us home?
I mean, the only thing I'll add is, I mean, your talk was all about leadership. Sure, you mentioned things about science of reading, MTSS, the innovations, what we need to be thinking about, oral language, but it's all about leadership. See, because Freedom in the Fences says that as leaders, we can't lead everyone the same way. It doesn't work. We can't do that. And if I'm in a position where I'm a teacher in the classroom, I also have to be growing myself, a component of leadership. See, everything falls back to leadership.
Yeah, it goes back to that first slide. So, I mean, Terry, maybe we should just put leadership as the foundation of all those things. Like, it doesn't go from one to the next. It actually goes from the bottom always. You always have to lead first to do this, lead first to do this, lead first to, yeah, could be a graphic change. I agree.
Yeah.
There we go. And another example of leadership, right? Of that development, to say it could be a graphic change. So don't stick a pin right there. We are always evolving and we're always growing. And especially in that first box, that, right? That's a part of the process for us to make those decisions, acknowledge them, and say, hey, let me grow from this, and let me make a change from it.
You know, Donnie, that active waiting idea and this thought that I was just evolving today about, we make a decision and we make it right. I don't know what that next right move is, really. You know, I said about the work we did in 2020, and now we'd probably make a different decision about how we did certain things. What I am saying to you, leading out there from classroom level to superintendent level, is make the best decision you can right now. And then just know that you're going to evolve it. You're going to potentially change it. I have a superintendent that I love and admire. We're working together, and one of the things that she had asked her teachers to do, she realized within a week it wasn't exactly what she wanted to ask her teachers to do, and she looked at me and she goes, "Okay, now don't say anything about that. I will change that in 1 month, but let it settle for a little bit." Because there's also a pace of change. Okay.
Yeah.
As leaders, you have to understand you can't just go, "Oh, whoops, I screwed up and now just do this." It's like, yeah, I definitely, okay, yeah, I cannot ask you to pivot that quickly. So
Yeah.
really understanding that you are going to change, and really be humble about the change, and really be humble about the pace of change for large organizations, and how many teacher turnover you have, how much funding you have, what different leadership styles in buildings. Many things go into big superintendent level decisions. But as long as you're moving and you're charting and navigating the course, that's the law of navigation by John Maxwell. You have to be the one that knows and sees before everybody else is going in that direction. So you're seeing it, you're knowing it, and you're leading out there. And then you're saying, "Hey, come on this way. I've already gone this way. I know I'm going down the right path." And that's not, it's an unknown sometimes, but it's a constant state of change. All right. I'm going to hand it over to Terry, and she's going to bring us home for the final few minutes of this morning. We're so grateful that you're with us. And, shout out, I'm going to go through the chat box right now and see if there's anything I can pick up and share.
Okay.
All
Go to
right.
Micah.
Let's go. My goal is to tie this up in a pretty little bow, bring us home, and give you some things to think about. So often in education, I think we get in this spiral, in this cycle, in this teacher workroom, where all of the conversation of all the things that are wrong happen. Is that we get there and the complaining starts, or this didn't work, or that didn't work. We're in this movement towards the science of reading, and oh my goodness, I didn't think it was going to be this hard, and that teacher down the hallway didn't do what she was supposed to do. And so this language that is swirling around us on a daily basis is something that leaders, we do different. See, literacy leaders, we walk different. We talk different, we do different, we act different, and we are the models that are going to take us into the future in 2025 and beyond. So I hope you have, if you hadn't already, which my goodness, I've got pages of notes already, get that pen and that piece of paper, because I want to talk today about leader language. Okay. So leader language, and what I'll be doing, I'm going to be doing this like in the moment, on the fly, and showing you what we're going to be creating here. Okay. So we're actually going to be creating like a little T-chart. And I want to start with this statement that says, see, the way we view things is the way we do things. Okay. And I said leaders do things different. They act different. They see things different. They see more and before, as Danielle said. See, we lean on faith over fear. We talk about what I have the waiting, how we behave while we wait. And so those are the things that we're going to look at here. So create yourself this little chart, and the statements that I'm going to take us through. Our first section of 3 statements is all going to be about personal growth. Okay. Now, laid back language. Admittedly, I was like, what can I put here? And I thought to myself, ooh, loser language. And I thought, no, I don't want to call anybody a loser. So I went with laid back language. These are the statements that come into our minds that often swirl about us. So number 1, it's hard. It's hard. This growth thing, this evolving thing, it is hard. See, that is laid back language, and that is complacent language. Leader language says, it's not hard. I've never done it before. So I love this mindset. See, it's because the way that we are viewing, we're putting leader language into our minds. It's not hard. I've just never done it. I haven't made this new dish for supper one night. It's not hard. I've just never done it. See, leaders, we look at things differently, and it's all taking us back to personal growth. A number two statement that is this laid back language, complacent language is, let's see, on the one side, before you can change what's going on around you, you have to change. Oh, maybe my numbers aren't going to work. That's okay. You have to change what's going on inside of you. See, because as leaders, as educational leaders, we look at what's happening in our school, in our district, and oh, well, this is wrong, and the leaders don't get it, and I thought it would be easier, and they're not moving as fast. See, we're saying all this change needs to happen, but see, leadership begins with us. And so I've got to change what's going on inside of me before I can change what's going on outside of me. That's a growth mindset. All right, let's look at a number three here. A number three here is leaders, we don't just go through life. Leaders grow, I'm going to capitalize that, through life. Because we, as leaders, we have to intentionally grow. Now, here's a statistic. Okay, write this down. Do you realize that by and large in any population, 99% of people go through life? Same routines, same systems that we follow every single day, same. But that only 1% of the population actually grows through life. And that's you. You're here on New Year's Day. You are growing through life. All right. So those are some statements. The way we view things is the way we do things. See, we're going to use leadership language this year. And when we're in those teacher workrooms, we're in those PLC meetings, when we're in those moments and somebody's like, well, it's hard. No, it's not hard. You've never done it before. Or have this kind of laid back, complacent language. We are going to change the language and we're going to model it. All right. This next section is about leader perspective. Okay. So leader perspective is this. This comes from Tony Robbins. Okay. So this one is stop being afraid of what will go wrong. Oh my goodness. Do we not do this all the time? We do this all the time. See, it's worse in our imaginations than it is in reality, always and forever. I say this all the time. If you're a parent and your curfew for your child is at midnight and they're not home at midnight, where do you have those children? They're in the ditch on the side of the road. See, because we make up things in our brains. But as leaders, we're going to have leader language, and we are going to be excited about what will go right. That's what we're going to get excited about. So when we're surrounded by individuals, negativity, well, that's going to go wrong. We're going to get a new curriculum, but that's, oh, well, but it doesn't have this and it doesn't have that. Nope. See, leaders, we do different, act different, talk different, walk different. We're going to be excited about what will go right. So that's perspective. Here's another one. Oh, this is a good one. What you give power to has power over you. If you give power to fear, fear has power over you. If you give power to ego, ego is going to have power over you. But see, as leaders, what we are going to do is we are going to give power to our progress and not our past. That's where we're putting our power. We're giving, see, this is perspective. We're going to give power to our progress. We're going to give power to look where I am now in 2025 as opposed to 2024. See, all of these things are statements where we are going to do things different. Here's another one on perspective. Oh, it's a big one. And I think this speaks to what Teresa was talking about. It was a bad day. It was a bad week. It was a bad month. It was a bad year. Oh my goodness, 2024, put that to rest. I had a lot of things going on last year. You had a lot of things going on last year. but was it really a bad day? See, leaders, it was a bad 5 minutes. That's all it was. And I'm not going to go to bed and close my eyes at night and say it was a bad day. It wasn't a bad day. It was a bad 5 minutes. It was a bad statement. It was a bad training, but it doesn't define how I view my day. Perspective. Okay, this last section here is all about abundance. See, as leaders, we have an abundance mindset. Okay, so our laid back language over here is, good is good enough. Good is good enough. That's just kind of where I am. I just go do my routine every day. And what we want to do is let go of good so we can achieve great. That's what we want to do as leaders. Let go of the good. Oh, our scores are good enough. They're just good enough. Oh, man, we are making progress. But you know what we got to do is we got to say, yeah, it was good enough, but is it great? Leaders think different. And our last statement right here, okay? Here we go. Oh, what do we like to do? Excuses won't build your future or the futures of children. Excuses. We like to make excuses. I like to make excuses. We all like to make excuses. But leaders, remember, we're going to have a leadership language, leadership mindset. And oh my goodness, we could all do talks on this. Consistent action will lead to an abundant future. Consistent. I didn't want to just say action will lead to an abundant future. Because if you say to yourself, yeah, I am going to grow this year, but you only do it 3 days, that wasn't consistent. You only do it 1 day a month. That's not really consistent either. See, we got to have consistency. And if we're going to change the futures of our children, we have to have consistent action. Consistent action. So we could do a lot of statements. I just wanted to kind of go through this with you and think about when you hear the negative language, I want you to have that leadership language mindset and change it into leader language. Because when you walk into that teacher workroom, when you hear someone say a negative comment, you be the leader and you turn it and you make it a positive thing. So as I close out here, what I want to do, I saw this little, I guess you could call it a poem, maybe not a poem, a statement. All right, here we go. Laziness kills ambition. Anger kills wisdom. Fear kills dreams. Ego kills growth. Jealousy kills peace. Doubt kills confidence. Ugh. Talk about some laid back loser language. Okay. But what do we do as leaders? See, we take anything and we put the leader language to it. Let's read backwards, starting at the bottom. I'm gonna read it backwards, okay? Confidence kills doubt. Peace kills jealousy. Growth kills ego. Dreams kills fear. Wisdom kills anger. Ambition kills laziness. All right, leaders, remember the way that we view things is the way that we do things. We are going to be literacy leaders in 2025, and we are going to have leadership language.
Woohoo! Fire! That's awesome. Uh-huh.
Yes, Kathleen. Yes, it was.
It's time to kill some things.
It's time to kill some things. I love it. You know what, everybody? If you want to join in and give your voice, we can turn your mic on. Does anybody want to, shout out, talk, ask us a question? We'd love to hear your voice. I know we put this in webinar format this morning, but anybody want to just pop it in the chat box? I'll turn on a mic. Give you a second.
While Danielle is doing that, it comes to mind, this is almost like sometimes if you're a person of faith or you've gone to a motivational talk or somewhere or something and you get really like the emotional side where you like feel revved up. This is our opportunity to do the next step because we can be like really, oh my goodness, that was so powerful. But our next step, right? Our next best step is going to be more powerful because are we going to leave this call and say, woohoo, wait, what was that they talked about again? Right. Once you click off, or is it going to be your time to really build off of this, really go and start this in a way that someone can't say, oh, you're not a finisher. You're like, well, that was in my past. I had to write that down of what Terry just said. What was that, Terry? That stuck with me when it says, I need to give power to my progress and not to my past. So if people have called you, you're not a finisher. I mean, you're lazy. You're all the things, right? That people will say who are not doing it and who are a little nervous about your impact. This is your time to put your blinders on and say, no, that's not the person that I'm becoming. I'm becoming a person who is a finisher. I am a leader who is consistent. I am this who is this. And so this is our opportunity to do that, not only in this minute, but also when we get off and tomorrow and this afternoon. So I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah.
I think Lolita has a comment that she wants to share. Absolutely, Donnie.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
rooting for everybody.
Lolita, here we go. Allowing you to talk.
Let's do it.
There you go.
Good
You're on.
morning. What a wonderful way to spend my morning, my first day of 2025. And Donnie is my daughter, so I'm excited.
What?
I
That is
know.
wonderful. Yes.
Proud
Woo!
of all of you. What wonderful feedback you've given. Great fueling messages.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Lolita.
We're so grateful you were here. Thanks for taking the time, starting the year with us.
Absolutely. And her word is intentionality. Mommy, I'm surprised you didn't say that. She's all about intentionality.
Well, I was intentional about joining.
You were.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to turn your mic on? Melody, I love that you are feeling grateful this morning. Grateful is such a heart opener. It just brings that space of joy and peacefulness to the body. Our heart has more neurons than our brain. I don't know if y'all knew that, but it's time to start waking up our hearts and start to live from our heart and just add gratitude to the world. And so doing that work, Melody, you're grateful, inspired, elevated. We're grateful you love Freedom and the Fences too. Shout out to Jill in CISA 2. She's actually from Burlington, right, Terry?
Yeah.
Wisconsin. And yeah, and language is a foundation of literacy. Very, really, years ago, I would love to know how all you all think about this, Donnie and Terry, is that there's a moment in life, right, when you start to realize that your language and the words you choose really impacts the ecosystem you're in. And from the partner you're married to, the children you're working with, to the team you're working with, how you choose words really changes the experience, and that is powerful. So all right, so Lynn out there, it's not what we have in our life, but who we have in our life that counts. Yay, that's beautiful. Thank you for language and words and wisdom. Thank you everybody for joining. Have a happy new year. I hope that you found some inspiration to carry into your day to keep you rolling into how you're going to evolve. And what I want you to really think about is that future you want to live into. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And start walking into it and let your future self call you. So when you walk into that old environment, because I promise you the triggers are going to be there when you go back into schools and or just life, and those triggers happen. You're like, oh, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to think those thoughts anymore. I don't want to say those things anymore. And you really have to do the work. You might have to write it down. You might have to say, what are the triggers going to be? And do the work so you can show up as a new person. And we're here cheering you on. We left some links for you. Here it is again. You can join mentorship. We would love to have you join. And I have this great coupon. So use the coupon Happy 2025 if you are thinking on signing up and want to be a part of mentorship. We go live every Wednesday. We post something every Monday. We have wonderful mentors from the scientific field, and we try to tackle topics that just push us and make us change our thinking and evolve our thinking so we can help you lead in your buildings and in your life, because we care about you and we want this to be a more hopeful world, as Teresa put forth today, and have faith in that. So thank you so much. Oh, yay, Julie, I'm so grateful you joined as well. We are so grateful that you came, and we hope to see you in mentorship soon. Thank you, everybody.